Hello and a very warm welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching Security Scan. I'm Frank Rausen Pereira. Well, continuing with its recent tests of BrahMos, India on Tuesday test fired an anti-ship version of the supersonic cruise missile. The missile, media reported, was test fired from the Andaman and Nicobar Islands territory as part of the trials being conducted by the Indian Navy. During the test held around 0925 hours, the DRDO-developed BrahMos supersonic cruise missile with a strike range of 300 kilometers was launched from the Indian Navy's INS Ranvijay, and it successfully hit its target ship near the Car Nicobar Islands in the Bay of Bengal. This latest test comes as a part of a series of tests carried out by the Defence Research and Development Organization in the last 2 months. On November 24th, the land attack version of BrahMos was test fired, also from the Andaman and Nicobar Islands territory. The missile had successfully hit its target located on another island in a test that was carried out by the Indian Army. In this edition of Security Scan, we will analyze the naval version of BrahMos. Joining me on the program today are Dr. W. Selvamurthy, former Chief Controller, Research and Development, Defence Research and Development Organization; Commodore Anil Jaisingh, retired Vice President, Indian Maritime Foundation; and Air Vice Marshal P.K. Srivastav, retired Defence Analyst. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of Security Scan. So, Dr. Selvamurthy, let me start the program with you first. Let's talk about the evolution of the BrahMos missile and how it has come to this.
India has acquired a huge, tremendous capability in terms of missiles, in the field of missiles, starting from Agni, Prithvi, Akash, Nag, Trishul, BrahMos, interceptor missiles, Shaurya. And among all this, one of the important achievements is BrahMos. In spite of all the technology control regimes, CTBT, NPT, and all this, we have been able to, DRDO, Defence Research and Development Organization, has been successful through the IGMDP, that is Integrated Guided Missile Development Program. We should at this juncture remember Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, the father of missile technology in our country, and who brought this whole IGMDP program. Today it has been successful. Almost all the missiles have been developed and inducted into the services. And with the right from propulsion, control, guidance, navigation, all that what you require, payload integration, and all these have been successfully, the capability, the tacit knowledge have been built, as well as it has been manufactured and inducted into the services. So this missile field, India, is really very strong. And we should also remember the other person who brought BrahMos, which is being talked today, that BrahMos is a joint venture between India, the DRDO, as well as with the Russia, the Brahmaputra and Moskva river. You know, these two rivers, a confluence as BrahMos. It's an aerospace. We started in India, the BrahMos Aerospace Limited by the DRDO, and it's doing very well. And Dr. A. Sivathanu Pillai is the person who is this. He was the CEO. And with Dr. Kalam's guidance, this was established. And in fact, in 2006, we had this BrahMos Corporation established. And we have both private institutions, industries, and also the Indian Ordnance Factory, which is now manufacturing them. And there are many, many partners in this joint venture between India and Russia. And Russia has been a reliable partner in many technology development and also the weapons earlier inducted into the services. And this is one of the successful joint venture between India and the Russian Federation, which has really resulted in the fastest supersonic cruise missile today in the world is in India. And all the three services, Army, Navy, Air Force, have inducted them. And this is the fastest supersonic cruise missile. You can imagine the speed of light, which is 3.2 Mach, which is really 3 times more the speed of the sound. So that is the speed with which this particular BrahMos missile can fly. And it can be launched from both air, water, underwater, and also from land. So this capability exists, and you can also move it. It's a mobile. You can put it in a container, move it to the field, and you can launch from a mobile launcher. This is
Right.
another capability. And we can also launch it from underwater, which can give a surprise to the adversary. So DRDO has come in a long way, and this capability, and country should be proud of this joint venture as well as missile capability today, which really is a big deterrent. And both tactical and the strategic payload can be delivered by this. So you can have a nuclear warhead, and you can
Sure.
also have a conventional warhead. So the
Absolutely.
DRDO, we must compliment DRDO and our scientists, and working with industries, academic institutions like Yadavpur University, which gave the control and guidance. So thank you very much, Frank. And I think those are my initial remarks. It's a
Absolutely.
commendable achievement for the country. And BrahMos, its accuracy, reliability is very, very high. And India is proud to have the fastest supersonic cruise missile today, the BrahMos. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Dr. Selvamurthy, we'll come back to you for another reaction. Of course, we'll continue to discuss about this, about missile capability and so much more. We'll try and cover as much as we possibly can in the 25 minutes that we have. We are now left with only less than 20 minutes. So let me go across to the other panelists as well. So AVM Srivastav, as far as the naval version of the BrahMos missile is concerned, what are its salient features? What is it? What does this successful test mean for us?
So, if we take from the strategic perspective, what Dr. Selvamurthy has already explained in terms of missiles, you have seen the recent past we had around 10 missile tests. The Rudram was also part of it. So, with all that building up, the kind of arsenal which is building up is really very important and gives us that kind of strategic and tactical edge which India was always looking forward to as indigenous capability. So few things I would like to mention here. If we talk about this missile, the BrahMos missile is a universal missile. If I have to, let's say, move an army missile to a naval missile or naval to Air Force, Air Force with little tweaking, I can do that. So that kind of transferability gives me, if I have a common inventory, I can move as per the requirement of war fighting or as per the strategic requirement or tactical requirement. So that is one very important capability. Second thing which is coming up, this missile has now been tested after MTCR. We became member of the MTCR. It has been now tested to the supposed to be the range of 4 to 450 kilometers, but with fine tuning of the engine, ramjet engine, and with the fine tuning of our fuel efficiency and some electronics, this can be extended to 800 kilometers and 1000 kilometers. So, without actually disturbing the weight of the missile, which happens to be nearly 2.5 to 3 tons, it is capable of carrying nearly 250 kilograms of warhead, conventional and nuclear both. So if we merge this capability, what we are looking at, India was always trying to strengthen its triad, what we call the triad ability, which that you can fire from land, you can fire from air, you can fire from sea, you can also fire undersea. All that capability, there are only 4 countries in the world which are actually having this capability. You'll naturally home them on, that is US, China, Russia, and us. We think that France also has it and probably Israel also has it, but there's not so much approved. So with that kind of environment that you have triad capability available to you, with the kind of range which is really potent to you, and also one more very important thing, it works across the satellite for its guidance. It works across the satellite navigation platforms like GPS, GLONASS, and Navik, our own platform, which is supposed to be even more accurate or precise. With that, the precision comes, which has been proven in this recent launch. So this is one missile which has this capability. So what I'm saying, towards the terminal guidance, it does the S maneuver. And if you do the S maneuver, it is very difficult for anti-missile weapons to destroy it before it reaches the target. With these capabilities, it really gives India an edge, which is the most important edge in terms of missile arsenal and combat. And I think this is a very beautiful deterrent. And as Dr. Selvamurthy has also brought out, the contribution of one scientist, singular scientist, which I would also like to point out, I've also interacted with him personally, is Dr. Pillai, Pithanu Pillai, put in the initial efforts, we tried to make several other joint ventures on this model, that is 50.5 versus 49.5%. We really could not do it. This is one of those beautiful models which has given wonderful results.
Right.
So that's what I would like to say in the initial thoughts.
Absolutely. Okay, points taken. Taking the discussion forward on the strategic aspect. So, Commodore, what does this mean as far as the Indian Ocean is concerned and our Indian Navy is concerned?
The BrahMos missile, I think, is a tremendous force multiplier for the Indian Navy. Navies today operate in a very vast ocean environment, particularly the Indian Navy as the premier Indian Ocean power and the impending threat to it from our neighbor in the north, who is seeking to dominate the waters of the globe, in fact. I think this sort of a deterrence capability that this missile provides to our surface ships and our submarines is going to be a pivotal aspect in preventing any sort of misadventurism in the Indian Ocean. From a surface ship perspective, firing from a ship like a Delhi-class destroyer or a Kolkata-class destroyer, 7,500-ton displacement with a supersonic Mach 2 cruise missile is a tremendous capability. And it is enough to deter anybody from trying to take on the Indian surface forces. From a submarine perspective, this missile has been fired from an underwater platform as part of trying to prove its capability to be fired from an actual submarine. It will be fired when it is incorporated on the submarine. It will be fired through a vertical launch system at the moment. And I think, if I remember correctly, a few years ago, I was told that even a torpedo tube launched version of this missile is under development, which will further enhance its capability even from underwater platforms. From a naval perspective, from a naval operations perspective, in a strategic context, I think besides the tremendous amount of additional firepower it provides the forces a tremendous flexibility of operation and the ability to maneuver. When you have this kind of a weapon, you can operate uninhibited in the open ocean. You're not concerned about a close-in threat because you've got the standoff capability to tackle any threat that may be approaching. And more important is that being a land attack capable missile as well, from the sea, you can open up a land front. Instead of having to only fire on land targets from land, in our sort of battle space context, opening up a front from the sea with a land attack capable missile which can be fired 400 kilometers into land on pinpoint accuracy, precision guided on a specific target, is a tremendous capability. It can totally influence the outcome of battle on land also. During Libya and Afghanistan and Iraq, it was the Tomahawk missiles launched by the Los Angeles-class submarines which pulverized the land forces without a single boot on ground having been placed by the Americans at that point of time. So it gives that kind of a capability, and I think this is a tremendous success. And as Dr. Selvamurthy and Air Vice Marshal Srivastava pointed out, at a 3 Mach missile, the kind of kinetic energy it carries with it when it hits a target, even if it doesn't explode, it's enough to probably destroy a target. It comes with that kind of a force. So this is something that no other country has yet been able to replicate. There are other cruise missiles. The Tomahawk has been an extremely successful model. But I think what the BrahMos today, as Dr. Selvamurthy clearly brought out, is by far the most powerful and the fastest cruise missile in the world.
Right. Absolutely. All right. So, taking the discussion forward, and since we are here, then I'm also going to ask my panelists to be brief in our second round of comments so that we can have final closing comments on the program as well. Dr. Selvamurthy, since we are here, since we're talking about the most powerful and the fastest cruise missile, let's also talk about what goes into making a missile like this. I would expect it to be a highly technical process.
Right. The first one, you need materials. When you prepare a missile, you need the right kind of materials which can withstand the vagaries of the atmospheric conditions to which it has to traverse. And also when it gets back, so you need to have the attack. So first is the materials. The second is propulsion. You need to propel the missiles at that speed to that target or the range which you are planning. So you need propellants. Solid propellants and liquid propellants are a combination of these two. So you need propellant. Then you need the control and guidance. You need to control the missile. If it cannot be just autonomous. So you just have to control guidance and guide the missile to the target, then navigate. So you have to navigate. So control, guidance, navigation is an important component of the missile development. Then the important component is the weapon, the warhead, which you need to put. It could be a conventional warhead which can pierce through the targets, or it can be a nuclear warhead. So we have this warhead integration which has to take place. Then you need to look at the trajectory in which it has to traverse. So you have computational capability, and then you need to monitor them when you are testing them using radars. Is it going to the right target? Is it following the right trajectories? So you need those kind of monitoring system, radars, and sometimes you put it in the ships at various locations so that you see the actual path traversed by the missiles. So these are the various technologies which are required. All of them are indigenously developed by the DRDO Defense Research and Development Organization, and with the help of industries, both government and private, that is PSUs, as well as the industries. And so we also had some support and collaboration from Russian laboratories, and we should acknowledge their help also in this particular field during the development as well. So this BrahMos is a very good example and manifestation of that joint venture of collaboration, very strong collaboration between India and the Russian Federation.
Absolutely. All right. So AVM, as far as the missile tests are concerned, like you yourself mentioned in your opening remarks, we did a separate discussion on that as well. Like, over the last 2 months, we've seen a series of successful missile tests, clearly showing the prowess of DRDO on how they carry out these the missile development and missile testing as well. But can this kind of a model be replicated elsewhere too, or in other divisions, so that we can see equal amount of success? For instance, artillery guns, development of aircraft, and these kind of aspects. Can we take away something from missile development and technology to the other divisions as well?
Frank, you said something which we always wanted to say, is the confluence of R&D and then thereafter the industry. When we talk about the industry, it is both private and public. So what has happened in the case of BrahMos, the success model, when I mentioned 50.5 and 49.5%, it gave BrahMos not exactly a public sector outlook. It became a private sector kind of company. So it had the ability to keep experts with them, and it had the ability to hire experts. It had several other abilities to place orders. That means it was in a position to exploit industrial base, develop industrial base, get the technology what it wanted to go in a time-bound manner, so that the whole confluence could come together and really give impetus. This is what we have been talking about. If you really ask me, in threshold technology like aircraft manufacturing, there had been several sessions and several policy letters, initiatives, including the strategic partnership, trying to say that we have to bring in a private sector other than the HL into the fold. Because when you talk about any kind of this kind of thing, I always try to say Hyderabad is something like our own version of missile valley. Instead of Silicon Valley, it's a missile valley. You find small and big people who are helping develop things. And that's where lies the key. We need to develop the industrial defense aviation base in our country, both private and public. So that's where this model is very indicative. Also, let me just bring in this model. The success of this model is that we have gradually become from 40% to now 85% plus. We are doing all major and critical parts in India. It has become indigenous, which is a very important achievement, because you can produce almost this missile anywhere. And Commodore mentioned just a point back that submerged version we have tested through a Pantoon. We already have tested. So we have the capability for the submarine version also. It has not been fully tested, but we have the technology demonstration has been done. So in this case, borrowing this from the other field actually is a recommended thought process. You really ask me, this is what we harp upon. Why can't we borrow this into the other field and create such organizations which will bring in the technology, develop technology, make it homegrown? So to that extent, it's a very good thought. And ramjet become very important because, one more thing is very important for our viewers to know, that in just 7 seconds we achieved 2.8 Mach. In just 7 seconds, our booster is that capable, which is a very important thing, because the moment you do that, your ramjet engine starts functioning, and you can
Right.
later on make it scramjet. It can become supersonic. So
Sure.
these technologies have been developed, and what I was talking about, tweaking these technologies, you can really bring in 800 kilometers, 1,000 kilometers, and further developments you can do. And seeker, of course, is an RF seeker, and which is a very important part of it, which Dr. Silamurthy has already mentioned.
Right. Okay. So, Commodore, as far as all these missile tests that we've undertaken, we've got a nice arsenal in our kitty, really. So, how do all of these come together, and what does it mean for our capability as a whole?
You see, if you look at the missile tests which have taken place in the last couple of months, and there have been a flurry of them, what it really does is it further reinforces and makes our missile capability more and more credible. For every successful test that you do, it shows that you have the capability to not do it once, twice, but do it each and every time. It not only projects India's power, it not only projects India's technological prowess, but it is a tremendous morale booster for the crew, which is on board these ships, to have the confidence that they have a weapon that is impregnable, a weapon that is absolutely invulnerable. So I think from a purely user's perspective, that is very important. That we've been able to do these tests, the Army, Navy, and the Air Force almost together, shows the coordination that will be required in future warfare. The same weapon has this multiple platform capability. If we incorporate the underwater element as well, which will eventually arrive, and the land attack capability, then we have a very, very intense, lethal arsenal available with us. And every time we test it, we send a strong message to everybody around that, look, this is what we have, and it's getting better by the day. So I think that's very important. And from a maritime perspective, as I had mentioned, we have a vast ocean area which we have to protect. It's not only our security, we have to protect the Indian Ocean as the net security provider in this region. And therefore, we need weapons of this capability to be able to send the strong message that don't mess with us in the Indian Ocean.
Absolutely. All right. Time now to get quick closing comments from all my panelists with the best way forward and what next. Starting first with you, Dr. Selvamurthy.
I think now we are looking at a long range of this. Instead of only 400 kilometers, can we make it 800 or 1500 kilometers? The ultimate aim we are looking at, that can we reach that level of range. And also the speed, now it is 2.8, so can it be augmented to 3.5? So we are looking at the technologies for propulsion, which will augment the speed of the missile, and so that your reaction time from the enemy or the adversary has to be very short. So these are some of the new thrust which will be coming in the BrahMos. You will see the different versions which will be highly versatile, capable, and such kind of missions contribute to Atmanirbhar Bharat. What Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji is talking about is actually DRDO is doing. So this is one of the best example, and this is a good model which has been evolved. I think this can be replicated, BrahMos model, which is a joint venture. We should adopt with other countries, friendly countries, where you can gain the technology, then we can do things faster, better, and with greater capability, because the synergy becomes a force multiplier. You have the inherent strength in DRDO, the Indian defense, R&D organizations, industries, academic institutions. Put them together with the other countries, be it Israel or US or any other friendly country, Japan, who want to collaborate with us. This is a good model which has been evolved, BrahMos. So
Right.
this can be adopted. It need not be duplicated, but it can be adopted. The best practices, the best aspects of the model of joint venture could be adopted. This will increase the Atmanirbhar Bharat, the philosophy of Honorable Prime Minister, very fast. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. AVM?
So my best takeaway would be that we need to replicate this model primarily in the aircraft domain. It is high time where they do it, where we are able to create an ecosystem which can be self-supporting. Our indigenous content can go up. Very important for us. And second thing, of course, for the missile is kind of future for our kind of deterrent which we need for a country, such a large country, and it gives us the deterrent, the quality of deterrent at a much lesser value. So that is also very important when budgets are very important. So on that note, I would say that we need to implement the concepts of AI also into this business. So it is important that AI gets threshold technologies walk in, and we of course make the speed, which CEO BrahMos has once mentioned that he is trying to double the speed of BrahMos. So Dr. Selvamoorthy mentioned about 3.5 Mach, and what he has in mind is something like beyond 5.
Right.
That would be really great. That would be really
Hypersonic.
great.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. And Commodore, close the show for us with your concluding remarks.
Yes, a quick one. As a submariner, I'd be the happiest person the day we can fire the BrahMos from a vertical launch as well as a torpedo tube from a submarine. In addition to all the other things that have been said, of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We are hopeful, and we're fully confident that we can see that being achieved as well, hopefully in the near future. With that, we'll call it a wrap on this edition of Security Scan. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. Well, that's it from me. See you again next time.